My name is Mr. K. Sardonicus. Welcome once again to my Vault of Horror. And also, happy Valentine's Day to all you lovers out there. Today, we're going to be doing something very special. We're going to be doing my very first top 10 list of this channel. So, let's finally get into it. Now, I know that there are a lot of Stephen King adaptations out there, and I know there are some that aren't movies, and some are miniseries. So, my decisions are mainly going towards Stephen King adaptations that were short stories and that were films, not miniseries. So these 10 are my personal favorite. I'd love to see what you guys say in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video. Let's get into this right now with number 10.
Ian McKellen, Brad Renfro.
Now we see what you're made of.
Apt pupil.
Now, I have only read the short story Apt Pupil only a few times. Different Seasons isn't exactly my favorite Stephen King book, but it is a good one. And I definitely think that, even though Shawshank Redemption and The Body were great, and, The Body is Stand By Me. That's the name of the movie adaptation. But anyway, I felt that Apt Pupil felt really intense. And I think the movie does the story justice in some of the best ways fucking possible. This story is about a disturbed kid who finds out that his neighbor is a former Nazi from World War II. And he gets involved, and he ends up fucking around and finding out. Ian McKellen is great as the villain, the former Nazi, and it gets crazier and crazier. And the kid actor in the movie I forget his name off the top of my head, but he's good too at being really creepy and disturbed. So I gotta say, Apt Pupil, despite me liking it, it's number 10 because it's honestly my least favorite. So let's get into number 9.
Sweetheart, let me handle it.
Okay, so I personally love the original story of the Boogeyman from Stephen King and his book Night Shift. And I'll be honest, even though I love the movie adaptation, I seriously think that they missed an opportunity to explore the story more. Like, the story is pretty much taking place in two places, and it is very unnerving, and I feel that they could have done more with that stuff. But, nonetheless, this kind of expanded on the story a bit more in certain ways, and I kind of enjoyed that, and the look of the Boogeyman himself is really, really good and disturbing, and it has some tense moments and some really good jump scares, so I definitely think that the Boogeyman deserves to be on here.
Graveyard Shift.
Now, I know I'm probably going to be in the minority here, but of course you've already heard me defend The Mangler, but I personally believe that Graveyard Shift is a fantastic creature feature from Stephen King's book Night Shift. It is an absolutely incredible practical effects monster that it's just and the acting is over the top, yes, but it just makes it work. Especially with Brad Dourif's character, who, of course, he's Chucky and a bunch of other characters out there that he does a really good job at being the crazy dude. And I seriously think that Graveyard Shift is one of those underrated gems that deserves to get a little bit of more love. Now, I believe it's number 7. Now this is an interesting one because this is one of his based on one of Stephen King's more modern stories. This is 1922 from his collection of stories, Full Dark, No Stars. And, you know, Full Dark, No Stars was one of the first books I read when I had turned 18 years old. And for some reason, it made me appreciate Stephen King even more. Because he has so much fucking range. And 1922 is one of those disturbing tales about a dysfunctional family that ends up making wrong decision after wrong decision, and it ends up haunting them. Especially the father, who is mainly responsible for the atrocities that happen. And it is gripping, it is disturbing, and it is brutal. And it is emotionally driven, and I definitely recommend it.
Stephen King's Children of the Corn, an adult nightmare.
Now, number 6, this is gonna probably get me a little bit more crap too, but I'm sure a lot of you diehard Stephen King fans will understand when I say that Children of the Corn, 1980, I believe it was 4. It's a good movie and it's a good adaptation in some ways, but you know, the story is so much better. They weren't able to capture the story like, you know, in any other adaptation of you know, the story itself. There's been so many different movies, and it just turns out that the first movie is the one that works the best and follows the story a little bit closer. But of course, the remake, the 2000s remake on the Sci-Fi Channel tried to do it right, but they just failed spectacularly. And I think that the first Children of the Corn from '84 is, I think, the best Children of the Corn film and probably the best Children of the Corn short story adaptation that there is.
Your grandmother, she sees things.
Now, number 5 is going to be an interesting one because it's not talked about very much. And it's unfortunate because this short story has been adapted into an episode of the 80s Twilight Zone revival and is now has a movie adaptation that came out in the early 2010s. This is Mercy, which is based on the short story from the Skeleton Crew called Grandma. And this is one of the most... I remember seeing the episode from the Twilight Zone, and it freaked me the fuck out. And I think that this movie, Mercy, is a great expansion upon the short story Grandma, because it is nuts. And it's literally so simple because it's literally a family having to take care of their sick grandma. And their grandma, there's something more to her that they're going to end up finding out, and they won't want to have to deal with, but they have no other choice. I definitely recommend Mercy. It is one of the few good Blumhouse movies. It was like right when Blumhouse was getting started, so this is a really good one. I definitely recommend this underrated gem, Mercy.
You've always wanted to know what hell was like. Now you will know.
Now, number 4 is another underrated Stephen King adaptation. And this happens to be the only short story movie adaptation that happens to be a part of Nightmares and Dreamscapes book. And I definitely recommend this one because The Night Flyer is one of those underrated vampire tales from Stephen King. Because he's made many. So much more than Jerusalem's Lot and Salem's Lot. And The Night Flyer is one of those good ones. Because it's literally about this scummy newspaper reporter that's trying to find the next big scoop. And it turns out there's a fucking vampire that drives a fucking plane and drains people in an airport. And he has to figure that shit out. Well, he should have left well enough alone because the vampire literally is telling him to leave it be. And he will not leave it be. And I don't want to spoil it for you, but The Night Flyer is one of those, like, underrated gems from Stephen King. And track down a DVD copy because you really can't find a Blu-ray copy or anything. It's really hard to even get a copy of this thing. It was originally, I believe, on HBO or Showtime when it aired, so it was a TV movie, but it wasn't a miniseries, so it actually counts. But yeah, The Night Flyer is definitely one of those good ones. Now, I know that this one is definitely gonna make people a little angry because they would think, why isn't this number one? Well, the only reason why I don't think that The Mist by in the 2000s what is my number one is because, look, I love the story and I love the movie, but it's bleak. It's really bleak, but it's effective and it's a good movie. But I don't usually tend to have fun with this one as much because of its subject matter and how bleak it is. But I love it nonetheless, and I'm not saying I don't love a good bleak movie every once in a while, but something about The Mist just hit me harder than most. And I don't even have kids, but it's still one of those movies that you gotta watch, and it's definitely worth being in the top 3.
The Mangler.
Finally, at number 2, yeah, I'm sure you were wondering whether or not this was going to be number 1 or number 2. Because, I've already talked about it before, on my first video. Number 2 is The Mangler. And I love The Mangler. It is one of my all-time favorite Stephen King adaptations and Tobe Hooper films, Robert Englund films. I think that this film is fun as hell. Pun intended, man. Demonically possessed laundry folding machine, along with a whole bunch of extra shit that wasn't even in the story, but it works because of how ridiculous it is. I think that this one is phenomenal, but it can only be number 1 for me personally, and you'll see shortly. Now, this is the one. This is my all-time favorite Stephen King short story movie adaptation. And this is another TV movie, but man, does it not feel like it. It literally feels like one of the, because when it did come to video, it was rated R. So that just says it all. This is Sometimes They Come Back. This is one of those movies that really originally freaked me out when I saw it in the 90s. And it is so good. The short story is a lot darker, but I think that the movie is so much fun and is pretty freaky and dark and has some very, very, mature subject matter and has some gruesome kills. Even though most of them are kind of off screen, but you see what's left of them. And it's literally about this this man who is a teacher, he ended up having, he and his brother had this altercation with a gang, a bunch of greasers. And the older brother ended up getting killed along with the greasers when he was a kid. Well, when the man comes back into his hometown to teach his students in a new school, the greasers are there. And they haven't aged a single bit. Everybody sees them, but they don't know him. They don't know the gang members. They think they're just new students. The teacher is the only person that knows who or what they really are. And it gets to a point where the greasers are really getting under this teacher's skin. They're knocking off people that actually believe him and trust him. It is insane. It is one of the best Stephen King adaptations I've ever seen. And I seriously think that this is the one that is my personal favorite. And that's it. That's my top 10 short story adaptations that were made into films by Stephen King. Tell me what your favorite short stories are from Stephen King, favorite movie adaptations. This is just 10 of them. I could probably do several more in the future. I'm definitely going to be doing maybe a top 5 mini-series, because I definitely think that needs to be talked about. But anyways, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you guys so much. And, I'll see you guys next time. Take care, guys.